Alright, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Oni105 in the voice, and today I'll be talking about my thoughts on the Nautilus 79. So I'm essentially just gonna have to ask and answer 5 major questions with it. Why is Splashdown not as bad as the other potential candidates, even though it's like lower mid tier at best? Is this competitively viable? Do I personally like it as a kit? Was it worth the year and a half wait for it? And is this good enough to potentially have to call for a third Nautilus kit? Now, the first major question I have is, why is Splashdown not as bad as the other potential special candidates, even though it's lower mid-tier at best? Although I don't think Triple Splashdown is honestly not that great right now, I also don't think it's that bad of a special, especially with Nautilus, because it's already a good main weapon to begin with. I also think, especially compared to what we could have gotten something way, way worse. The timeline would have been a lot darker had we gotten something like Reef Slider or Splatter Color Screen. But I also think we could have had much better, like way better, like Booyah Bomb or Crab Tank or even Inkjet, although it wouldn't need a bomb, because they don't do kits that are straight copies from Splatoon 2. And speaking of Splatoon 2, I do think Splashdown from Splatoon 2 had several problems that made it one of the worst and annoying specials to deal with. Like with Splatoon 2 Splashdown, if it was cancelled, you basically had no value. It was a panic button, although in 3 it still is a panic button. It's like too annoying to deal with in lower ranks and too easy to deal with in higher ranks. And I actually think most of the problems with Splashdown in Splatoon 2 were neutered to where it wasn't absolutely annoying to deal with. Canceling is way easier, and you do have more value with the 2 fists. That would at least net you more paint. If not, like, there would be a good chance for you to get a trade if they canceled your Splashdown. The next question I want to ask is this competitively viable enough, and will it like add or break the meta? So if I'm looking at it from a competitive standpoint, as well as judging it like how other competitive players like Pochara and NetSRB2 dude are also seeing it, I just don't think it's going to be that competitive, nor do I see it breaking like the meta. So, spoiler alert, we're probably not getting a Gold Nautilus meta anytime soon. We're not talking about a Snipe Rider here, but there's always the possibility of somebody trying to push it and see if they can get some kind of like big tournament win out of it. So I don't think it's totally out of the question that, oh, we just write this off and like suddenly it could end up becoming meta like how Snipe Rider was. Thankfully, this question does segue into the next question I have, which is, do I personally like the Summon Special on it? While again, it won't be that viable as a competitive weapon, I sure seeing it being very, very, very fun for Nautilus enthusiasts like me, or casual players of the game who aren't really into playing all that competitively and only play Turf Wars and like have a little bit of anarchy on the side. But my genuine complaint that I do have with it is its points per special. Like, 210 guys? Really? Especially since we have a 52 deco coming out with a splatter color screen that is 190. I think it's dumb that they did that, but it's like nowhere near bad enough to like break my love for the weapon. The next question I do want to ask is, was this worth the 18 months we had to wait for it? Although this wasn't really a Nautilus issue so much as it's a seasonal issue, I honestly do feel a little bit shortchanged that like we had to get Splashdown. I get that it was introduced in chill season, but the problem is they kind of like booked themselves into a corner. Shout out to all my pro wrestling fans for that. Where like they had to end up including 2 weapons with Splashdown, the other one being Custom Explosher of all weapons, which does rope into the next and final question I do want to ask. Now, the final question I want to ask about Nautilus 79 is it good enough overall to call for a potential third Nautilus kit? And I'll be honest here, I think there's just enough, and I mean just enough upsides to 79 for me to not have to be spamming Splatoon's Twitter account for a third kit. But if there was a third kit, something like a Nautilus 29, I really would not mind it because it would absolutely be a better kit. With my money of it getting like Inkjet again, but have the sub be something like Sprinkler, which is a pretty good option for a potential third Nautilus kit devs, just FYI if you want to consider it. If we're even going to get third kits, which I do think is possible. But honestly, even if we don't end up getting third kits, the 47 is honestly just more competitive and is another kit that I really like in Point Sensor and Inkstorm. So yeah, in conclusion, I think the kit could have been so much better, yet so much worse at the same time. It isn't going to break anything in terms of the meta, nor are we going to see absolutely any results out of it, although I am certain someone might try to push this like crazy. But casually for the hardcore not mains, it could be just fun. I do feel slightly shortchanged that I had to wait a year and a half for this weapon, only to get a middle of the road kit at best, but it's more of a seasonal problem than a weapon problem, and I absolutely won't go like feral if we don't get a third kit, but I would absolutely appreciate at least the devs considering giving it another shot at a decent kit. It would probably have to be a part of Sheldon's picks for it. So yeah, subscribe if you want more, and enjoy the rest of this Nautilus gameplay that I put in the background.